Hello, my name is Natasha Rodriguez, and this is my submission to the reading portion of my practice test. I was told to read 2 paragraphs and then the questions and my answers at the end. I'm going to be starting with paragraphs 3 and 4. Then why are eyewitnesses so often used in court? They always have been from biblical times to the present. There is almost nothing more convincing, U.S. Supreme Court Justice William J. Brennan Jr. wrote in 1981, than a live human being who takes the stand, points a finger at the defendant, and says, "That's the one." The problem is that our justice system hasn't adapted to what modern forensic science has established about memory's failings. Judges and juries tend to give too much credit to eyewitnesses, particularly those who appear confident in their memories and are seen as having little motive to lie. The legal system is set up to kind of sort between liars and truth tellers. Gary Wells, a psychology professor at Iowa State University, Gary Wells, a psychology professor at Iowa State University. But when someone is genuinely mistaken, the legal system doesn't really know how to deal with that. That was paragraph 3. I'm going to be reading paragraph 4. What role do the police play? Deliberately or through sloppiness, police often contribute to erroneous identifications. The New Jersey Supreme Court's recent ruling stemmed from a 2004 case in which an eyewitness admitted to being nudged by a detective to identify the defendant. But more subtle suggestions matter too. If the person's running a traditional police lineup knows who fellow cops suspect of committing the crime, for example, he may provide inadvertent cues to the witness. A glance, a nod, a subtle praise, a recognition of this problem has prompted New Jersey, North Carolina, and several U.S. cities to change their lineup procedures, and 10 other states are now considering changes. That was paragraphs 3 and 4 of the excerpt. I will be moving on to the questions. Number 1, in your own words, state the main idea of this reading. Be sure to explain the argument being made here. In the article I've read, the author is using dates, facts, and resources to make an argument about eyewitnesses' testimonies in the court of law and how credible they are in court. The main idea is changing how we view eyewitnesses and how much credit they get, in convincing criminals or alleged attackers. In the first paragraph, it states more than 75,000 eyewitnesses identify criminal suspects in the U.S., and studies suggest a third of them are wrong. Number 2, it says, identify the 3 most powerful examples that the author uses to support this argument and explain what makes these examples so effective. I got 3 examples from a couple different paragraphs, and the reason why I think they all are so strong is because they use dates, court cases, names, and different perspectives on the case because of certain beliefs or certain ideas on what an eyewitness's testimony brings to a case. So the first example I used is in the second paragraph. It says more than 2,000 studies on eyewitnesses in recent decades have determined that recollections are prone to decay, they're prone to distortion and suggestion. In the second example I used is in the third paragraph. He uses a quote from U.S. Supreme Court Justice William J. Brennan Jr. It says, "There's nothing more convincing than a live human being who takes the stand, points a finger at the defendant, and says, 'That's the one.' The problem is that our justice system hasn't adapted to what modern forensic science has established about memory's failings." That I kind of tied into the first one, with the second one being that, 1, they're using cases, judges, Supreme Court justices, dates, times, and studies, recent studies, on psychology and how going through something traumatic is damaging to you, and it shouldn't be up to you, I guess, to point the finger when you've been through something. It should be through evidence, hardcore evidence, because in the third one you get the case of Jennifer Thompson, who was raped in her apartment in 1984, and she knew for 100% confidence that it was the man Ronald Cotton. From what I believe, what I know is Ronald Cotton was an African American man, and according to Jennifer Thompson, she studied the face. She studied the face of her assailant. This woman was raped and decided she was going to put him away, and she studied the face of her assailant, and she knew that it was Ronald Cotton. A couple years later, we find out it wasn't Ronald. It was another inmate who was in prison the same time and with Ronald, and said, "It was me. I got away with that. I got away with that." I remember reading this in high school about this case when I took psychology. I remember reading this. And my third question says, do you agree with the author's message? Why or not? Why or why not? Be sure to explain using evidence from the reading. I kind of did that with question 2 as well, so I might be using some of the same stuff. I definitely agree with the message. I believe that, again, going through something traumatic has an effect on you. I've been through certain things, and till this day, I still think about it. I still think I'm glad I'm through it, but I would never trust someone else, I guess, to tell my traumatic story. But then again, I would never trust if it was still happening, or if whatever had happened, and it was brought to the level to this level of court and trial and judge and jury. I wouldn't want to be an eyewitness, because my story is going to be different than the original. There's always two sides. It's just finding the right one. It's finding the facts, the evidence, the dates, the times, whatever you need. So yes, I agree with the message. I agree with Supreme Court Justice William J. Brennan Jr. I agree with how they handled the Jennifer Thompson case to a certain extent. I don't know if this is going to put me in, a label I don't want, but I believe that our justice system needs reformation. I think that it needs something to change because of innocent people going to jail for crimes they did not commit, and because the evidence was there, it only took them 40 minutes to convict him. 40 minutes to put this man, innocent man, away for his adult life. I don't think that's fair. I think something should change. Number 4, it says, reflecting on this assignment and your own ability to read in general, please describe what you see as your biggest strength and weaknesses. Some of my strengths as a reader is I have an ability to comprehend literature. I have an ability to relate it to my life and to be able to help people understand it in a way that they can, or in a way that they learn. I used to be a daycare teacher, so when I was teaching one of the younger kids how to read, I would say, well, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite movie? And I would go from there based off of that. So I think one of my strengths are being able to comprehend, relate, and distribute reading literature. Some of my weaknesses are grammar. If I'm writing, the commas are hard for me to find their correct place. My brain, I read faster in my head versus out loud, so I'm kind of struggling now through this. there was a point in time I had an English teacher, and she would say, I love your work, but I had to take points off because of you and your commas. I was like, oh my gosh. But that is some of my strengths and weaknesses. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.